How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Do you think the $2 trillion is a realistic number now that you're looking more closely at it?
Yeah, well, I think we'll try for $2 trillion.
Having now won the election and no longer needing anybody's vote, Donald Trump has been publicly and consistently walking back major campaign promises, like effortlessly cutting everybody's grocery bills and effortlessly ending foreign wars. And now, Shadow President-elect Elon Musk is also coming clean on a major pre-election promise, admitting that he probably won't be able to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. It's all been bullshit, folks. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, none of us should be surprised. The MAGA movement has been comprised of bullshit, broken promises, and open lies ever since Donald Trump walked down that escalator. There has never been an American political movement in modern history as consistently dishonest and consistently predatory on even its own voters like MAGA. He lies to your face, he promises you the moon, he gets you to vote for him, and then he reneges on all of it. Donald Trump's first term was littered with one broken promise after another. He's going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. That didn't happen. He was going to repeal and replace Obamacare. That didn't happen. He was going to get us out of Afghanistan. That didn't happen. He was going to allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices. That didn't happen. He was going to wipe out all the national debt he inherited. And not only did he not do that, he added $8 trillion in a single term. None of us should be surprised. What's interesting is even Elon Musk is coming clean, be like, yeah, we made a big promise, probably not going to be able to do it, but hey, listen, it's no big deal. I want to remind you of what Elon Musk promised MAGA Republicans and really the American people that he would be able to do with his genius, with his audit, his penchant for auditing and cutting costs and efficiency, what he promised he would do with regards to the federal budget.
But we set up DOGE.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
I mean,
So that was Elon Musk, who has no government experience, who is certainly not a government expert, and has actually financially, for all of his success, relied very much on subsidies from the federal government, saying, oh, at least $2 trillion. Now, when that came out, people on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the political spectrum, or rather all across the political spectrum, including honest conservatives, as few and far between as they are, were like, this is bullshit. Elon Musk is not going to be able to do that. You couldn't possibly cut that level of spending without depleting the military budget, going after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And Republicans have vowed that they won't do those things, so that leaves you between a rock and a hard place. And yet, MAGA Republicans, Elon Musk fanboys, Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy themselves insisted, no, you don't understand. We're going to find ways without depleting the military budget, without touching a penny of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We're going to cut $2 trillion from the debt. Well, now, as of a recent interview conducted yesterday, Elon Musk is saying, about that, maybe not.
Really, you really like the chip? I can guarantee it.
And let me kind of bring us down to earth for a question on DOGE.
Yeah.
I worked very closely actually with President Clinton in the 90s, where we did have reinventing government. We did balance the budget in 2 years, actually.
That's awesome. Oh, those were the days.
And again, before he gets to this, it's so funny that he's laughing about this, about the profligacy of the American government. Donald Trump approved more debt in a 4-year term than any president in U.S. history, even though he promised he would not only not add to the debt, he'd wipe out all the debt he'd inherited from his predecessors. And yet this is the guy that Elon Musk, has cozied up to, and it makes sense because Musk himself is effectively the de facto president-elect and the de facto leader of the Republican Party, given his influence over Trump. But to pretend that Trump has any sort of credibility with respect to fiscal conservatism is, again, bullshit.
Well,
It's been a while.
It didn't last very long because
it
got blown up very quickly. Have you identified some cuts that you're really looking at that you think will be successful? Do you think the $2 trillion is a realistic number now that you're looking more closely at it?
Yeah, well, I think we'll try for 2 trillion. I think that's like the best case outcome. But I do think that you kind of have to have some overage. I think if we try for 2 trillion, we've got a good shot at getting one. And if we can drop the budget deficit from 2 trillion to 1 trillion, and kind of free up the economy to have additional growth, such that the output of goods and services it keeps pace with the increase in the money supply, then there will be no inflation.
So I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a macroeconomist, but people will tell you you have to have some measure of inflation. It's about 2%. Okay, this is the target marker. This idea that you won't have any inflation is ridiculous. You'll either have some measure of inflation or stagflation or deflationary spiral. So again, it just seems to me that Elon Musk is pulling this shit out of his ass. I'll also point out that under President Biden, we have seen considerable GDP growth, which was higher than even the pre-pandemic levels under the Trump administration. So again, it's really interesting how he's made this alliance with Trump, who is just objectively, at least based on past performance, the least qualified to be fiscally conservative and to preside over extraordinary growth. He inherited a really good economy from President Obama, drove it into the ground by his fourth year in office. President Biden had to step in once he was elected and get us out of that hole, and he has. Our economy is the envy of the world. It's doing better than China, the European Union, any of our G7 peers. No credit has been given to the Biden administration, but as people have pointed out, Trump is inheriting an economy that his predecessors would have dreamed about inheriting, and you can bet your ass that he's going to take credit for it, and his supporters are going to give him credit for it immediately after his inauguration. MSNBC is talking about this, though, about Elon Musk backing off a major promise. Remember when Musk vowed to uncover ways to cut at least $2 trillion from the federal budget? The DOGE leader is already abandoning his goal. And again, we should point out, listen to how he answers. He's not the smoothest speaker, the smoothest rhetorician to begin with, but you can see the palpable, oh, shit, I knew, it's an overage. If you shoot for the moon, the expression is shoot for the moon and you'll land on the stars, even though the stars are further out by far than the moon. It's just an expression, this idea that if you overshoot your goal, you'll still do extremely well if you really put your back into it. But that's not how he positioned this during the campaign. He didn't say, hey, listen, this is almost extremely unlikely. It's virtually impossible, but damn it, we're going to shoot for it anyway. $2 trillion in cuts to the federal budget. No, he said $2 trillion would be cut at least from the federal budget. So again, it was just a total bullshit promise that anybody paying attention to government would have been able to be like, no, Elon, you're lying. You're either stupid or you're lying, one of the two. About a week before Election Day 2024, Musk appeared at a rally in support of Donald Trump's candidacy and made a striking boast. In the Republicans' second term, the GOP mega donor said he'd uncover ways to cut at least $2 trillion from the federal budget. This was impossible to take seriously. The federal government's entire discretionary budget is only about $1.8 trillion, and the world's wealthiest individual is apparently coming to terms with this nagging detail. In an interview broadcast on the social media platform he owns, Musk said his original goal was more of a best-case scenario. He added, however, he believes there still might be a good shot at cutting half of that, $1 trillion. So we have a decent shot at maybe cutting half of what I originally promised you would be the bare minimum. Remember, $2 trillion at least. That was the bottom. That was the benchmark. And he's saying now we have a good shot of cutting half that. Total bullshit. At this point, let's take a brief stroll down memory lane. 4 months ago, Trump shared a campaign pledge with voters. If elected to a second term, the Republican said he'd appoint Musk to lead some kind of government efficiency panel that would focus on slashing federal investments. To hear the then candidate tell it, the endeavor would work miracles. The Musk-led commission, Trump boasted, would save taxpayers trillions of dollars and implement an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. None of this made any sense, in part because Musk lacked any meaningful experience in auditing, federal budgeting, or appropriations, and in part because cutting trillions from the federal budget is spectacularly unrealistic. The GOP ticket prevailed anyway, and Donald Trump launched the so-called Department of Government Efficiency to be led by Musk and failed White House hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy. All the while, the party's focus remained on $2 trillion in cuts. Indeed, as recently as mid-December, Trump not only said that Musk would find $2 trillion in cuts, he added that these cuts would have no impact on the American public, which was utterly bizarre given that $2 trillion in cuts would require, as the New York Times put it, shutting down almost the entire federal government. Some congressional Republicans appeared only too pleased to play along. Representative Buddy Carter of Georgia, for example, appeared on Fox Business and declared, in reference to the $2 trillion figure, can be done. Carter, a member of the House Budget Committee, should have known better. Now, evidently, Musk does know better. All of this is notable because Trump's operation is already backing off prominent campaign promises even before Inauguration Day, and the hype surrounding the DOGE initiative is already unraveling. Punchbowl News' Jake Sherman, an MSNBC contributor, spoke to a senior Republican aide last month who described Musk and Ramaswamy as, quote, two people who know nothing about how the government works, pretending they can cut $1 trillion. The same aide predicted that the entire endeavor would likely end in, quote, disaster. As Musk publicly rejects one of Trump's most unrealistic goals, it's worth keeping that quote in mind. It doesn't matter. They've won. And quite frankly, even though I know, progressive commentator Cenk Uygur insists that MAGA populists will hold Donald Trump accountable and politically punish him for his broken promises, I think it's bullshit. I think that MAGA is, for the most part, an authoritarian cult of personality, but it's still worth noting, just in case there's some converts out there, Donald Trump and Elon Musk lied to your face. They are either incredibly stupid, or they are incredibly dishonest, or perhaps both. But once again, they are walking back from a major campaign promise, having gotten what they wanted from you, which was your vote, which was predicated on promises they could never deliver. And he hasn't even been inaugurated yet. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.